Hello, in this video we're gonna be discussing the different points of focus in breathwork. By the end of this video, you're gonna have a completely expanded awareness. When it comes to breathwork practitioners, sometimes they only limit their breathing to 3 different main points of focus. One of them is the mouth, one of them is the nose, and one of them is the diaphragm point of focus. People only limit their point of focus to those 3 areas, the middle of our body. Why? Simply because the mouth and the nose are aligned. So if we shift our attention down to the diaphragm, we automatically shift it to the middle, aligning it with the mouth and the nose. So why do we point our diaphragm point of focus in the center part of the torso rather than the front, the same as the mouth and nose? The entry points being the front of the head, but the 2 inflow cavities merge at the throat and the trachea, which travels down the center part of the torso. We combine the mouth and nose being in the middle of our torso, but our point of diaphragm being at the center where the trachea is. However, there is much more we can do when it comes to breathing. If deep conscious breathing is mainly from the lower chest or torso, what about the middle chest, the upper chest? What about the complete yogi breath, where we first use pressure to expand the belly, then we feel the bottom of the lungs, then we go to the middle and upper lungs? All these different focus locations are just variations added to the concept that I like to call the point of focus. When we think about points of focus, there's 3 main types. There is the airflow, there is the pressure, and there is also contractions. So mechanically speaking, airflow and pressure are the same thing. However, I split them into 2 for the sake of easier understanding for this video. When we're controlling point of focus in our upper torso, we are using mental focus to control pressure, which directs airflow within our body. So I can direct air into my lower torso where my diaphragm is, into my middle torso, into my upper torso, or direct it through the nose where we can hear the sound. When it comes to things like diaphragmatic breathing, we're no longer utilizing pressure, which controls the airflow location. We're mentally directing the pressure and the airflow becomes automatic. We're only driving the expansion and the contraction of the abs through mentally directing negative pressure below our diaphragm where the air itself doesn't reach. So let's go a step further. Why do we only have to divide focus in the middle of the torso? We don't have to do that. What happens if you bring your attention to the front of the torso, where your abs are located the same level where the diaphragm is? What happens when we bring our attention to the back, where the spine actually is? So it's very important to not neglect the different points of focus. In fact, I encourage you to play around, see where you can bring your point of focus, discover what point of awareness really means when you can truly direct it into different parts and areas of the body that are usually simply just not accessible to other people. They don't think of breathing as a point of focus or awareness, let alone they don't think about breathing to the front of the chest or the back of the chest. So play around. If I can do middle diaphragm, I can do front diaphragm. I can do back diaphragm. If I'm doing middle sternum, I can do front sternum. I can do back sternum. Same thing. It's the same principle in different points of focus. One issue with breathwork practitioners is when we really learn true deep conscious breathing, we tend to neglect the upper parts of the chest. So for example, if I've learned real deep conscious breathing, I would only be doing diaphragmatic breathing as well as diaphragmic breathing, where the diaphragm expands because I'm focusing at the diaphragm and the lower part of the torso. However, that would be my main form of breathing, my main part of the breathing program, and I would be forgetting to breathe in the upper part of the chest. And that is why the ancient traditions left us with amazing techniques such as the complete yogi breath, which makes sure we're filling our lower torso, our middle torso, and our upper torso. Because the reality is, even if you're doing deep conscious breathing as your predominant mode of breathing, there is still volume and space for oxygen to go in the upper chest of the torso, which is also important to ventilate, supply new oxygen to, because at the end of the day, we have bronchi all over the lungs and they all should at some point of your day get a refresh of oxygen. We're relating this as point of focus in breathwork. However, I encourage you to play around with your point of focus in general, not just point of focus in breathwork. For example, what happens when you try to turn your focus to your fingertips, to your knees, turn your focus outside your body? Play around with those things, because understanding mental point of focus is very important when it comes to breathwork, and not just breathwork. In life, anything in life, at the end of the day, really requires focus, and that is why focus, discipline, willpower, and silence is a big part of my philosophy, and that is why I made a very in-depth video about focus. With that being said, I would like to point out the similarity between some of the breathing points of focus as well as some of the quote-unquote chakra diagrams in the mainstream spirituality. Research suggests that we can manually activate fascia as well as cells within our body with nothing more but mental awareness, and this is a very significant factor which I will have a whole video on shortly. Here is a quick demo of all of them. So nose breathing is, mouth breathing is, and diaphragm breathing is. As you could hear, I pointed my attention to all three different areas of my body, and the air and the sound came from that point of the body. One is air inflow, so I can direct the inflow in my body. I directed the air and you can hear it. The next is guiding pressure within the body. This one is best demonstrated with the diaphragmatic breathing. My hand is going up and down, that's the pressure side. And lastly, there is the diaphragm contraction. With this one, I'm not focusing on the inflow, I'm just focusing on contracting my diaphragm. This automatically pushes my chest out, expands it, gives me more volume, and that is a point of focus itself. You're focusing on the physical diaphragm contraction. I hope this was insightful. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you have anything interesting to add when it comes to point of focus, any discoveries. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, consider a subscribe as well. We have 200 followers on YouTube and 1,000 followers on TikTok. The breathing army is growing strong. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you have anything to add. Hope you have a nice day.